It's 7 o'clock, but I think it's best if we wait a couple of minutes just to allow anyone who's trying to join. If it's okay with you, Dr. Muna?
Yes, sure.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Okay. So I think it's best if we start now. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to yet another session of our program this semester. I hope everyone can hear me. Yes, great. Such lovely. Good. Okay, so welcome everyone. We believe this talk is suitable for faculty, researchers, and postgraduate students. But if you don't fall under these two categories, or three actually, you're welcome to stay, and we hope you learn something new. In today's talk, we will discuss communication around publication, around submitting manuscripts for publication, reviewing and responding to reviews. It's worth to note that this type of communication with either the editor or reviewers, or even journal admins, is almost always conducted in written form. And also worth noting that academics are rarely, if ever, inducted in these writing practices through formal education in their pursued higher education degree. You kind of pick it up from the research community or by practice by being thrown in the experience itself. To shed more light on the topic, we have today our distinguished speaker, Dr. Mona Sabir. Dr. Mona Sabir is an associate professor at King Abdulaziz University. She has earned her PhD in applied linguistics from the University of Leeds. She currently leads the development and quality unit at the women's campus. She's also a consultant at KU's Administration of Research Centers Affairs, and she's a member of the university's scientific council. She's an accomplished researcher who presented internationally and locally, of course. Okay, so without further ado, I hand it over to Dr. Mona.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In today's session, inshallah, we will shed light on navigating the peer review process, what reviewers look for, and how to respond to their feedback. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'na wa anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna ilma. Now, the key objectives of today's session are the following. First, I'm going to give you some theoretical background on what peer review is. So just the historical background, definitions, basic information. Then I'm going to move into, before receiving the feedback from the reviewers, when you submit your paper for publications, you need to have an idea about what reviewers' expectations are. So what do they expect from you? What should be included in your manuscript? And then I'm going to move to the practical guide, which is the kind of the core of today's session, which is how to respond to reviewers' feedback. I'm going to give you practical tips, and I'm going to provide you with examples and samples that I hope that you would find them helpful. And I'm going to um, wrap the session by reiterating the importance of improving manuscript quality through peer review process. Now, before I start, I want to be honest, to know you a little bit. So I want to know if the majority of the audience today are faculty members or postgraduate students or so. So I'm going to post a quick poll. If you can, please just respond. Okay. So just to have a feel of the distribution of the members here in the session, and hopefully this will help me cater the right level of information throughout the following hour. So just allow me a second to share with you the poll. So does it appear to you? Yes, good. Okay, if all of you respond, please. Okay, good. Can everyone submit a choice, please? Yeah. So until now, it's like equal distribution between faculty members and postgraduate students. Okay. Okay. So probably more faculty members than students. And I have 9 who put the category of other. So I'm going to post the next question, okay? And so these are the responses so far. So I've got 45 faculty members and 35 students, okay, 12 other. Let's move to the next question. Also, before we start the session, which is a yes and no question. So, have you ever published a paper and received feedback from peer reviewers? Yes or no? Do you see the question?
Yeah, we can see it.
Maybe I need to update it or something. Just a minute.
Yeah, because like it seems like it's frozen.
Yeah. Just let me see if I can update it. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's start. Does it appear now, Dr. Suha? Okay, good.
Yeah, working fine now.
Yeah, perfect. So I'm receiving lots of no answers, which is good, which tells me that hopefully, inshallah, for those who said yes, I hope that you leave the session with a better view of how to respond to reviewers, okay, if you've done so before. And for those who are new to this, hopefully you're going to learn something new. طيب, let's start now with our actual content of the session. Let's start with a definition, a basic definition, what peer review is. Now, peer review is a term, and it has been in long history, since a very long time, thousands of years ago, 1,000 years ago. It was first associated with medical, okay, and visiting doctors. And then gradually, it started to be used in the sense that we know it now, which is an evaluative process where they qualify the researchers, the scholars, where they assess the quality and the validity of the research papers that are submitted to journals. Of course, this peer review ensures the integrity because reviewers often give careful attention to the methodology that's used because they want to ensure that the work that's submitted is actually good for replication. Other researchers can follow your lead and do the same, leading to the same results, which is verifying the methodological instruments. And this is, of course, a practice that has been found since a long time in prominent journals like Nature and Web of Science journals and so on. So just to give a quick view of what or the types of peer review are, we have three types of peer review. We have single blind review. Here, the reviewers actually know the identity of the authors, okay? Now, this is good and bad at the same time. It's good that in the sense that if the reviewers know the author and the background of the author, they can probably know their work in a better way and they can assess their the quality of the current manuscript based on previous experiences. But at the same time, the negative fact about this is that it, of course, introduces bias. And for example, lots of problems might occur. Now, the most common type or the most used practice now is the double-blind review, which conceals the identities of both. So the reviewers don't know the authors or the author, and vice versa, the author or the authors do not know their reviewers. And this is a very common practice that most journals like Science use to ensure fairness and to reduce bias among scholars and reviewers. And there is this open review model. It's not very common, but it's a kind of, let's say, transparent, democratic approach where it's a kind of open reviews that people can share, but it's not common. And my focus today, inshallah, is going to be on double-blind review and how to respond to that. So before we look into how we actually respond, we need to know what are the expectations. So what do reviewers need from us? I hope that, inshallah, I'm going to leave time. So at the end of the session, if you have questions, please note them down. And I'm going to allow some time for Q&A where you can ask the questions that you want. So before we look at how to respond to reviewers, let's have a little bit of, let's say, flavor of what reviewers look for. The number one aspect that reviewers look for is originality. Now, what do I mean by originality? The research is original. The research question is original, is significant. It's adding to the field, okay? It's filling a gap where there is no answer found, okay? Or trying to look at some sort of phenomenon from a different perspective. So it's original. It's not just mere replication in the sense of not adding anything to the field. And then it has to be relevance. There's a relevance and impact. And by that, we mean that it's relevant to a current trend in the field of research, So of course you can't just write a research on an idea or a topic that's outdated or that has been heavily criticized. So relevance and impact is also something that reviewers look for. Clarity of presentation. So in many times and in many, let's say, situations, the issue or the feedback that authors receive might be related to the fact that the ideas are not written clearly. So the ideas are good, actually. The research is good, but the author or the authors uh, did not have the ability to write clearly. So the clarity of presentation is very important. The methodological rigor is also a crucial thing. Okay, and I'm gonna also comment on that in the following slides. The importance of choosing the right methodological instruments, and then the literature review and citations. So having a valid piece of literature review that supports your research. A literature review, I always say that, especially to my students, it's not a list of related studies. It should be something as the result of your critical thinking of what's going on in the field. It's better to group the findings and categorize them and synthesize them in a way. And finally, consistency. Okay, so the concepts and everything in the research is consistent, and of course, it has to follow ethical considerations. Now, just to discuss it more, okay, when we say originality, now originality, of course, is very important for advancing the knowledge, having innovative research, contributions in the field, reaching new discoveries, for example. So the reviewers usually evaluate originality based on the uniqueness, okay, the significance. How does it fill the gap in the research? And how does it relate or add to the existing research or the existing literature? And finally, what are the implications for researchers? So does your research, does the paper that you are submitting enhance the works and impact and improve chances of publication success in the future? So does it have an impact for future research? This is something really important that most of the reviewers look for when they look at your work that you submit to journals. Now, when it comes to significance, significance is all about the impact and the importance of the research. So, is your research question well crafted? Does it set foundation for significant inquiries? Does it guide scholarly explorations? Okay, so you have to have a good, valid, well-crafted research question. It has to be relevant to the contemporary challenges, and it has also to guide researcher and direct methodologies in the design choices and shaping frameworks for the field. Now, when we say methodological rigor, what do we mean by that? Okay, choosing the right methodology that ensures integrity, okay, that's also reliable, valid instruments, okay, and replicable across studies. So you have to make sure when you write your paper, especially when you write your methodology section, that any other researcher who reads your research can replicate it and reach similar results because your methodology is clear, it's methodologically sound, and it's easily replicable. So also selecting the methods and the appropriateness of the methods. And I'm going to give you here an example of a discussion I had with postgraduate student. She wanted to look at the impact of some technological advancement on learning English. So impact of something on learning English. And then the instrument that she chose to achieve that was a questionnaire. Now, my question to you, can we actually measure the impact on the language by using a questionnaire? Of course not, okay? So if we want to measure the impact on the language, we need first to see what aspect of language we're focusing on. So let's say we want to explore vocab, okay, or the enhancement of vocabulary retention. Then we have to find a measure or an instrument that measure learners vocabulary, let's say, retention. So it's not going to be a questionnaire. So always think of whether the methodology or the instrument or the methods that you're actually choosing align well with your ideas and with your research questions. And of course, it should the reviewers evaluate the quality of the method. So if you're going to design a questionnaire, okay, ensure that you follow the right scientific procedure. So you have to see if there is a relevant questionnaire that's establishing the field. You have to build your work on someone else. You have to show the basis on which you built your questionnaire. So it's the quality is also something crucial that all reviewers look for. Another point that I also pointed at just a couple of minutes ago is clarity and structure, because most of the time what happens is we write and we think that people would understand what we're writing, but in fact our writing is not clear enough for the reader. Okay, maybe because we are the experts of the topic and this is our topic and we know it really well, we think that everyone understands what we understand, but that's not the reality, okay? So we have to be really clear when we write, okay? Knowing that the person who's reading our work, of course, is not or does not have the same amount of knowledge that we have for the topic. Any author of the topic is always the expert of that topic, okay? So write clearly, okay? Make every definition clear, make all your arguments clear. Do not confuse the reader by using synonyms, okay, without showing the relationship between synonyms, if you see what I mean, because this is science. This is not informal writing, it's formal writing. So choose your constructs, the definitions, make them clear, okay? Because if you write clearly, then the reviewers will understand your work in a better way, and that, of course, will lead eventually to less comments or less feedback. And then ensure that you have a logical structure. So the organization of the sections enhance the flow of the reading. So as a reviewer, I wouldn't be confused by the fact that you're jumping from one section to the other or jumping from one idea to the other. I would see that, well, the flow is good, I'm reading, it's a kind of smooth reading, the ideas are connected. Use proper signposting. So tell the reader in the next section, I'm going to do so and so and so, and help the reader navigate throughout your manuscript. And finally, avoid jargon and avoid lots of technical terms and lots of synonyms that are not related, okay? If you have to use a technical term, of course you can use it, but just point this out from the beginning and tell the reader how you are going to use this term. And if you're going to use another term meaning the same thing, tell the reader as well that these two terms are going to be used interchangeably. So ensure the clarity of your writing so that the reviewers hopefully understand your point of view and be less harsh on you when they write their comments. Okay, so now we reach the second half of this session, which is the practical guide, how to respond to reviewers' comments. And I'm gonna walk you through a step-by-step guide into how you respond to the reviewer's feedback. So in general, I thought of it as 4 major steps. Number 1, and probably to me, this is the most important step, which is having the right mindset to derive the right response. Now, what do I mean by this? We cannot neglect the psychological impact of peer review and the feedback on authors. We know lots of authors who get really angry when they receive criticism. Some feel frustrated. Some actually drop research forever. It happens, trust me. Some believe in silence. So we cannot deny the psychological effect of that. Especially that we know that in the publication domain, usually the reward is a bit delayed. So as academics and as researchers, we work very, very hard for years, and then it gets published in a good journal, but this happens after a very long time. So having this delayed reward might sometimes demotivate us as researchers, okay? And that's a fact. However, what I want you to and I hope you take this as a take-home message after the session, and is try to be positive, try to adopt a positive attitude, try to accept the nature of academia. This is the nature of academia. I'm accepting, actually expecting feedback, and I'm accepting it, okay? So try to minimize the negative feelings that result from having sort of a harsh peer review um, comments. And then if you accept that with an open mind, خلاص, you receive the feedback, and now it's time, before actually responding, revise the manuscript. Have a plan, either a mental plan or a written plan on how you are going to respond to the reviewers. And then actually respond to the reviewers. And finally, it's important to distinguish between whether you're going to agree with the reviewer or you're going to disagree with the reviewer, okay? The reason is some people think that they have to accept all reviewers' comments, and that's not true. You can actually disagree, and I'm going to show you how you can disagree politely if you are not convinced about the point that the reviewer is making. So, if we focus on the first step, which is the right mindset drives the right response, think about it this way. Think positively. Celebrate that your research has been read by experts in the field, okay? And I remember when I was a PhD student and it was time for my viva, I was, of course, nervous at that time. But I really remember my supervisor telling me this: Mona, listen, think about it. Two experts are going to read your work for free. They're going to give you their time. They're going to give you their attention. All the comments that you're going to receive from them will make your work better. So this is what I want you to have, a positive mindset, okay? All of this, the peer review process, is going to enhance my work. It's going to make it better. It's going to make me a better scholar and a better researcher. And then in the revising step, okay, you need to read the comments really well, okay? Try to discuss it. If you have co-authors, of course, discuss it with your co-authors. Maybe you can have a plan by dividing the, let's say, the work. Let's say to your co-authors, I'm going to respond to the comments with relations to the methodology, but you're going to respond with the comments in relation to the literature review. Whatever division or whatever agreement you have with your co-authors, but revise it and have a plan. And then decide which changes to accept and which changes to rebut. Because as I told you, you don't have to accept all of the comments and all of the, let's say, suggestions. It's your work. You are the author, you are the creator of this work. So you have a say in this, and you can actually rebut in a polite way. And I'm going to show you examples of the language that you can use when you disagree with a reviewer. I hope everything is fine with you now and that you're following the flow of the session. So let's go over the steps, step by step, on how to actually respond to the reviewer's comments, what to actually write in your response to the reviewers. First, what you have to do is you have to start by thanking the reviewer. So start by thanking the reviewer for taking the time to assess the manuscript and everything. So thanking part is essential at the beginning of the response. And then specify to the reviewer what you have addressed, okay, that you have addressed all the concerns. You have to address all the concerns, okay? And I don't mean by addressing all the concerns, accepting all of them, but either you tell the reviewer that I made these changes, and if you didn't make the change, you have to explain why you chose not to, okay? So I'm emphasizing this. It's okay to say no. It's okay not to follow what they said, but you have to provide a valid justification. And then list all the reviewers' comments and your answer to each one. And I'm going to show you a sample soon, okay? So ideally, you will post the reviewer's comment. So reviewer 1 said 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after each comment, you respond and, well, I did that, I changed that, I don't agree with that because, okay, so one by one. Avoid giving yes or no answers because this is not professional. You need to actually justify. You need to give explanations. You need to say what you've done as a change, and make all the responses to the reviewer self-contained. And by that I mean make it accessible and easy for the reviewer to follow the changes that you made. Because if you just tell the reviewer go and find the changes, it will be a bit of a hassle to read it again. But put it in a way like similar to this, with change and put the original text to this text. So this is before and this is after, and you will find this on page 5, for example, line 24. So make it accessible and easy to find for the reviewer. And then do not omit any concern raised by the reviewer. Sometimes some authors think, well, let me just neglect this one. This is not professional, because if reviewers found out about it, they might be mad at you. So just address every comment, okay? Either make the change or reject the change. If you reject the change, justify your choice. And I'm going to talk about justifications soon. In a nutshell, I need you to pick your battles wisely. So do not be as if accepting all of everything or rejecting everything. You can't actually reject everything, of course. Choose your battle. So this, I can make this change. Yes, it's doable, but this one is impossible because of the reasons. So choose your battle wisely. Now, be tactful when explaining why you disagree with the reviewer. Here comes the part, or the language part, of being diplomatic, being tactful, using polite, respectful language to show that you disagree in a logical, professional way. And remember, always remember that when reviewer tells you in their comments that we don't understand this point, it's most likely it's because it's not written clearly. So probably if you rephrase the part they told you they don't understand in a better way, this will enhance clarity and they will understand the point you are making. And in case, of course, you have lots of reviewers, sometimes, usually we have 2, but sometimes we have 3. And I think this is the most common practice, having 2 or 3 reviewers. So in case you have 1, 2, 3 reviewers, respond to each one separately. So for example, do not tell reviewer 2, see my response to reviewer 1. This is not professional enough, okay? So treat every reviewer as a separate document, as a separate kind of review that you need to respond to. And you started the letter, the response letter, with thanking. You need to end it also with thanking them again for taking the time to review the manuscript and so. So these are the steps, 11 steps that you need to follow when you actually prepare your response letter to the reviewers. Now I'm going to give you actual examples of the language that you can use, especially when you agree with the reviewer and when you disagree with the reviewer. Now, when you agree with the reviewer, simply say you acknowledge the mistake and confirm I have corrected it or I have changed it. And you can use the following language. So you can say, we thank the reviewer for pointing this out. We have revised so and so and so. We have removed so and so. We agree and have updated this and this. We have fixed the error. The observation is correct. We have changed that. We've made the change. The new sentence reads as follows. So these are some sort of examples of the language that can actually be used to agree with the reviewer's comments. Now, when you disagree, this is the challenging part. I believe that in the comments that you agree with, it's going to be fine. But when you disagree, you have to draft your response carefully, okay? Emphasize the part of the reviewer's comment you agree with. Then explain why you choose not to make the change. And I'm going to read this example from you. It's taken from a real, actually, report written to reviewers. So we agree with the reviewer that further elaborating on this point using new data would be helpful. So in the first part, you have to agree. However, here you provide your justifications. We believe that expanding our data set is neither feasible given the cost involved nor would significantly support our argument. So here maybe you can share the obstacles or share why it's not possible. For this reason, we chose not to make this change, but we added the following sentence to paragraph 3 in the discussion, though having a larger data set would offer further insight. Now look at this, it's just one line that's added, okay, as a change, but it will make a great difference in understanding the paper, the limitations, okay, showing that the authors admit that there is a limitation here. So this is one way or one example of responding to reviewers while you are disagreeing with their point of view. Now, there are some cases actually when your reviewers actually disagree. For example, reviewer 1 tells you to do this and this. Reviewer 2 tells you to do the opposite. So what are you going to do in that case? Okay, this is confusing actually, and could be embarrassing as well if you don't know how to deal with the situation. So it's fine when they give conflicting suggestions or point of view. Do not respond like this. Don't say, as another reviewer suggested the opposite, we didn't change the text. This is kind of not diplomatic enough. So you can just tone it down and say, as we received conflicting advice from another reviewer, we decided to make the change they suggested because we hope this is the right decision. So explain that you went with decision with the reviewer 1 or reviewer 2, and why is that, in a polite and tactful way. Now I'm going to share with you here, these are actual examples of letters to reviewers. I'm going to share with you the screen now, so just to see what I've been talking about in physically, like see it in front of your eyes and have a feel of how these letters to reviewers look like. So hopefully they'll be familiar to you when you start writing your own. So just allow me a second to share with you the screen here. Okay, so can you see it, Dr. Saha? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So here, as you can see, I just want to walk you through the document very quickly. Now, this is first, you write a title for it, response to reviewers' comments on the manuscript submitted by so-and-so, and the manuscript ID number, because each manuscript, of course, has an ID number. Here they started, as you can see, and you can zoom in if the font is small for you from your side, I believe. So we appreciate all of the value comments. So they start by thanking the reviewers, okay? They wrote their overall response and that they addressed all of the comments. And then here they gave like a table of contents. So reviewer 1, page 1, reviewer 2, page 3, and reviewer 4. So this is how they did it, and I believe this is one of the best ways to respond to reviewers. So reviewer 1, the comments. So they wrote the comment of the reviewer, and as you can see here in blue, they write their response to the reviewer, okay? So we appreciate this suggestion, we did that, we didn't do that, okay? So if we go through the document, you will see that they go one by one. So the comment of the reviewer and the response, the comment of the reviewer and the response. Once they are done with reviewer 1, now they move to reviewer 2, okay, and they will do the same. So you have to be systematic and consistent throughout your response letter to the reviewers. So reviewer 2, this is their comment and this is the response. Reviewer 3, similarly. As you can see, choose different colors to make it easy to follow. Put the text between quotation marks if you want to highlight something or a text or something like that. And it goes like this, okay? So even the charts, they added the charts because sometimes reviewers ask you to reanalyze something or reintroduce something, okay? And then see here in the end, They're just, we appreciate all the positive comments and thanking the reviewers again. So this is an example of how response letters to reviewers would look like. And I'm going to go back also to my slide. But before that, while I was actually preparing this session for you, I found this template by chance. I don't know if you know Editage, the proofreading company, okay? So Editage, I'm going to post the link for you here. They actually have a free template, okay, that you can actually download and use if you want to respond to reviewers. And I honestly found it really helpful, okay? So I'm going to share it. I shared the link with you here in the chat if you want to copy the link and open it from your side. But at the same time, I'm going to share it with you here so that you can just have an idea of how it looks like. So this is a template for responding to peer reviewer comments, okay? And they have two types of template. Template 1, which is a general template, and template 2, which is responses by section. And I'm going to show you one of them, okay? But it's a useful thing that you can actually download for your own use and use it later. So here, again, you see the same structure. So first, thanking the reviewer for giving me the opportunity and so on. And then here they chose to respond based on the section. So in the abstract, your comment was this and our response is this. In finishing from the abstract, then moving to the introduction, okay? Moving to the methodology and so forth. So this is a template that we really think, inshallah, is going to be useful for you when you start actually writing your own response letter to reviewers. Let's go back to our slide because I need to wrap this session and leave you some time for questions. So just to wrap and to recap on everything that I've been talking about, it's important to interpret the feedback before you jump into answering the comments. You have to differentiate between major and minor comments. Choose your battle. You do not have to respond to everything, and you do not have to reject everything. Revise the manuscript really well before actually you submit it again. Now, when disagreeing with reviewers, I highly emphasize the importance of using polite rebuttals, okay? Be respectful, okay? Use really logical structure, be graceful, polite justifications, okay? Provide the justifications, evidence-based justifications. Why are you rejecting this, okay? Make it clear using scientific basis. And navigate the disagreements. So try to engage with the reviewer collaboratively, showing the author that you really appreciate that whatever comments, oh sorry, not the author, the reviewer, whatever comments they are giving you here, they are actually meant to enhance the quality and the credibility of the research. Now, something that could be frustrating, but it's a fact, and this goes back to my first point of having a positive attitude and positive mindset, is that sometimes when you respond to reviewers and change everything, this is not going to be the final round. You might be getting another round of comments and then another submission. So you have to know that when you revise and everything, you will have to resubmit. After submitting, which is the post-revision process, you might undergo additional review. So you have to prepare yourself for further reviews. So they might tell you, well, now we see the changes that you made. We really like what you've done, but you need to add this and this and this. So be positive, accept that, accept the nature of academia, do not get frustrated, keep moving so that inshallah you will achieve what you want to achieve in the end, which is publishing your research in a high impact journal. So just final tips to conclude our session. You need to be professional throughout the process. Managing time, I haven't talked about that previously, but you have to manage the time because some journals give you a certain deadline. So you need to manage the time so that you can finish all of the changes that are required, and always be positive and focus on improvement. Know that this is going to lead to the growth of your research, and it's a prominent growth opportunity in academia. So these are some of the references that I found useful when I worked on this session. And I want to thank you very much for listening to me today. And I hope you found this session useful. And I'm going to leave some time for you to ask questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muna. Very informative insights and practical tips on navigating the peer review process. We're gonna open the floor for any questions from the audience. Please, if you've got any questions, you can either use your mic, I believe, or you can post on the chat box, please. Okay, so we've got a few here. Abdul Malik is asking, is true originality possible in the literature review section? What do you think, Dr. Muna?
Okay, now when you talk about originality, I don't think originality relates directly to the literature review. It relates mainly to the idea or the focus of the research question that needs to be original, addressing or filling a certain gap. But if you look at it from a literature review point of view, probably the research is going to be original if it addresses a certain gap in the literature. From that sense, yes, it's going to be an original research.
Okay. Another question regarding methodology part. Abdul Malik, asking, well, he's commenting saying, most methodologists I found do miss the details needed to recreate the experiments.
Okay.
So how can we overcome this?
Okay, that's why, and this is something I always tell to my MA students. I tell them when you try to use a paper or look at previous research and methodologies, try to look for papers that are published in good journals, okay? Avoid research that's published in weak, very low impact journals or even predatory journals, because I don't think it's going to take you anywhere, to be honest. The study is not replicable, the details are missing, it's going to be a real challenge. So try to find good quality references so that you can, inshallah, write good quality research.
Yes, I do agree. Quality journals do like provide the venue for quality papers. So if you're looking for quality papers, look for quality journals. A third
And
question.
quality methodology.
Yes, absolutely. A third question with regard of how do peer reviewers get chosen? Who choose them?
The reviewers. Okay.
Yeah, reviewers.
This is, of course, something the journal itself decides. Each journal has its editorial board, which is a group of experts, of course, and each journal has its own criteria. Of course, what I know for sure is there are two main criteria should be involved here. The relevance of the field. So the reviewer has to be an expert in your area, number one. Number two, I think he or she has to be associate professor or a full professor, well-published research to be able to review an article. But usually the editorial board decide the reviewers, because it's blind review. So as authors, of course, we don't have a say in the reviewers who are going to review our work.
Yes, of course. Like writers don't get to choose.
Yeah, exactly. I wish we do, but that's not true.
Okay, here's a request from Hamda asking if it's possible to arrange for probably another session on the steps. Yeah, well, on choosing journal, choosing right journal for your the right journal for your paper. So so probably that could be arranged in the future.
Yeah, we can arrange that, ya Hamda, in the future.
Okay. That profession should be central. And yeah, and you want to go back to a point you mentioned earlier with regard to the emotional impact of and having the right emotional impact of the comments, reviewers' comments on the writers, and the importance of having the right mindset to approach these comments. It's definitely a very important, and probably you want to elaborate a bit more. It could be helpful. Like,
I can share a personal story, Dr. Saha.
yes, we
Um,
all have personal stories.
I
No,
learned the hard way. All of the things I presented today, I learned the hard way. But they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I started a research back in 2018, and to be honest, it was an original idea, and I was really proud of the idea that I had. And I worked really, really hard on that research, and I wanted it to be published in a very good journal. I let's say, face lots of obstacles when it comes to the methodology and recruiting participants. It was really hard times, but eventually I submitted it to a journal, which was like my dream journal to publish the research in. And then it came with very harsh comments. Okay, all of the reviewers are saying the same thing. Well, the idea is great, research question is interesting, but there are problems with the methodology, and there are this and that, and they gave us like 6 months for correction. And at that time, I really felt depressed, to be honest, because it was really hard work that has been going on for 4 years, and I didn't expect to do all of this. But I had to push myself and be positive and do it. And then probably this was my very first hard experience. Alhamdulillah, eventually I published it in a very good journal, Psycholinguistics. But later, when every time I submit a research, خلاص, I'm telling myself I have to accept the fact. Maybe it's going to be rejected. Maybe it's going to be criticized heavily. So this is part of academia. This is the nature of it. So when I started having this mindset of not feeling very much offended or not very much disappointed, I believe I became a better researcher when it comes to handling research, publishing papers, um, than the past, of course. Yeah. So I would say, and I would say again to all of the researchers, do not make this affect your psychological well-being. Okay, it's natural. Everyone is like having or facing the same scenarios. So just take it easy and do it, and inshallah you will achieve what you want to.
yes, and I think that you might agree that things would become much easier if you accept that the comments are on the work you've done, not on you as a researcher.
Exactly. Yeah, and it will make the work much better, of course, and it will enhance it. Yes.
Definitely. And the only
Point, the all of the harsh comments I received from that journal, after 6 months of hard work in correction, they rejected the paper. So they said, well, we acknowledge that you've done a great job in all of the changes, but now we believe that the only thing this can be fixed is by recollecting data, which is, of course, not possible. But the
Mm.
good thing is that when I submitted it to another journal, the paper was very much enhanced, and I received much less comments from this next journal, psycholinguistics, and Alhamdulillah, it got published. So it went يعني well in the end, Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, congratulations on that. So rejection from one journal doesn't mean the end. End
Exactly.
story to your work, hard work. Rejection from one journal means probably resteering you to another, probably better journal for your paper.
Yeah, or a chance for another opportunity.
Absolutely. Um, well, Dean here has either responded to you from the same journal working separately. Yeah, Reem is referring to the point where you mentioned something about receiving conflicting
Yeah.
comments from the
Okay.
reviewers.
Okay.
So, I believe it's just like the job of the editor to mediate the comments before sending them out to the authors. But
Sometimes, you know, they don't do that. Like they don't read the comments probably thoroughly. Okay. So you might, as you go in the details, find some conflicting ideas. Because, you know, I'll tell you something, Dr. Soha, and all of the people attending today. As people, sometimes we change our mind, right? So, for example, if I read a manuscript today and I write a comment, and the next day I read it again, I might change my mind, right? Okay. So, it's normal for people to have some have of conflicting arguments because they have probably different backgrounds or different ideas and so.
yes, so nature of the reviews are subjective. Whether we yes, subject.
Definitely, it's subjective. This is something definite. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a fact.
Maybe we can end with this final question. Would
Mhm.
I mean I do appreciate that you mentioned that authors have the option of not agreeing, disagreeing with the comments, some of the comments they received. But
Yes.
would you say this is advisable to a novice researcher or someone who just published a paper, or this is if it were your first paper, would it be advisable to disagree with the comments you received?
Yes, if you need to disagree, because some comments are not, let's say, are not logical sometimes, okay? And sometimes you have a valid explanation for it. So even if you're a novice researcher or an early career researcher, you have the right to say no, of course, in a polite way, as long as you have valid justifications. But don't overdo the disagreeing thing, if you see what I mean.
Yes, always be tactful with the language and language choices
Yeah,
you make.
respectful language, valid justifications, evidence-based.
Justification is always a good tip.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we've reached the end of our session today. Thank you so much, Dr. Muna, for being with us today. Thank you for all our attendees. Uh, thank, um, thank you for your comments and questions, and we hope to see you again in future sessions. And I can see, please, yeah, don't forget to leave us comments on our feedback forms. If you have any suggestions or recommendation, please leave us a note on our feedback form. And I can see some people already making comments about the timing. I know time has shifted and now Isha prayer is between 7 and 8. So probably for our next online session, we'll modify the time. All right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suha and Mr. Kamal, for organizing this. And thanks to all the attendees. I hope you found the session useful. And hopefully, inshallah, I'm going to meet you again in future sessions.
Inshallah. Thank you so much. في أمان الله.